Senator, I have to say, I share that feeling of it's just hard to believe that this was actually discussed on the Senate floor and then blocked on the Senate floor by Republicans who no longer believe in the right to travel.
Exactly, Lawrence. And my friend Catherine Cortez Masto is leading this bill. And the reason we believe it's so important is that, one, we need to codify Roe v. Wade into law. And I think, until we get to the election and add those Democratic senators, that's not going to happen. But what we can do now is at least guaranteeing women the rights to travel to states that may allow for reproductive services. Look at what just happened. We had a 10-year-old get raped in Ohio and then had to go to Indiana to get an abortion. That is what we're seeing, this patchwork of laws across the country. And so we really have actual proof that they're doing this. In Missouri, they introduced a bill that said you could sue private citizens who would help people to travel to another state to get reproductive services. In Texas, they're preparing a law to go after companies criminally that would provide resources to women or girls that want to go to other states to get reproductive services. That's what we're dealing with right now. And it has been only 20 days since the Dobbs decision. And so far, over 20 states have been banning abortion. That's what we're dealing with, and we're going to have over half the states when this is done. And that's why I just keep focusing on doing everything we can do now, pushing the envelope, and then pushing towards the election to change this.
Senator, it doesn't feel like that long ago, or maybe it does now because time is moving so differently, that you and I, or law students around the country in law school classrooms, could sit around and come up with theoretical cases that you could be absolutely sure would be 9-0 votes in the Supreme Court. 9-0 on, of course, the constitutional right to travel, and no state has the authority to ask any questions about why you're traveling to or from another state. That would be a 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court, but I don't know anymore. I just don't know.
And I think what we have seen was a plan for a very long time to put these justices on the court. And you and I was on many times during these confirmation hearings talking about how extreme these nominees were. And now we're seeing it put into action. So when one branch of the government gets that out of whack, our framers set up our form of government so another branch can step in. And that's what this coming election is about. I also think that you're going to start seeing one by one these horrific stories like the one I just brought up. When that story first came out, all these people were saying, oh, that's not really true. Well, now we saw it in black and white. A horrible, horrible act occurred, a rape. It is in a complaint filed in Ohio that clearly say that this little girl not only was raped, but got pregnant. And to think that the law in these states now says that that little girl, that her family can't make that decision about whether or not she would carry a baby of a rapist, but instead the politicians have decided that she would have to, and her only recourse is to go to another state. And now we have some states that are even threatening to limit the right to go to other states. That's why we had that vote today. And sadly, while we may have had a debate on the floor, we were not able to actually debate the vote and go to a vote and really call our colleagues out on this to show where they stand.
Well, if you got to a vote, by the way, that is the technique, right? That's what Senator Langford's job was, to stand up there as a Republican from Oklahoma and block this coming to a vote, specifically so you couldn't have a recorded vote with Republican senators' names on it voting against the right to travel in America, and so that those Republican senators wouldn't have that liability in a re-election campaign.
Exactly. We just sought unanimous consent to move to that bill to get a vote and to actually have the vote on this, and we never got one. And our colleagues blocked this from going forward. And I think you're going to see this happen over and over again. And we're not going to give up, Lawrence. And I think it's also important to note when you see the actions of the Attorney General, Republican Attorney General of Texas today, who is actually trying to stop the Biden administration's effort to say, well, at least this one federal law says that you've got to guarantee a woman's right to have an abortion if her very life depends on it and she might die as an emergency procedure. And now he's trying to stop that. So it just illustrates how this isn't, yes, it's about the U.S. Senate, but it's also about the House, and it's about governors' races. It's about attorney generals' races. It is about legislatures across the country that are passing these kinds of bills. And it is really important to see it as from the every level of government, if we're going to protect a woman's reproductive rights and guarantee that, my daughter doesn't have less rights than me or her grandma.
And the Republicans who have been arguing for this for years in the Senate, almost all of them expecting this day to never come and kind of hoping it would never come so they wouldn't have to actually live with the results of what they've been advocating. They've all been pretending that those 10-year-old girls don't exist, and they've been pretending that for 50 years.
I was thinking about that today because of my former job as a prosecutor. We'd see these cases, these horrific child rape cases, and 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And so this is sadly not going to be the last case like this. Now, would there ever been that discussion about what happened and if the girl got pregnant? Not as much in many states because the doctors just took care of it. The family was there. But in this case, you're going to have these little kids having to travel to other states on top of the trauma they've already experienced. So I just think they're exactly right. People are trying to pretend this isn't happening. They say things so that you don't think it's real, but we're going to find out pretty quickly just how real this is. And one thing I disagree, I think many of our colleagues did know how they would vote. Not for all of them, but for many of them, it was very clear where these justices, where they were going to head, no matter what they said at these hearings. When you looked at their backgrounds, I think that there was always, and that's why I asked the justices about this hearing after hearing, how they construed the law. And by the way, not just when it comes to women's reproductive health, on the environment, on voting and the like. And this was the plan, and this is what we've got now. And we must do everything we can to change it.